Hi, this is Richard Blade, and you're listening to the Blue Zone Podcast Network as it presents Permanent Record, an in-depth look at the classic albums of the 70s and 80s, albums which have earned a permanent place of honor, both in our hearts and in our record collections.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Permanent Record Podcast. I am Sarah.
Oh, hey, I'm Brian.
Hey, Brian. Good to see you.
Same here, Sarah. Happy New Year.
Well, we're back, and we did have a small episode just recently, but this is kind of more a traditional episode that we're bringing to you, although it's still a little different. I'm excited about it, though.
I'm pretty excited, too. And yeah, in the last episode, our first one of the year was, of course, covering the song Thunderball.
Yeah.
One of our James Bond mini podcasts with author Robbie Sims. And we didn't chit-chat or anything in that one. That was just right to the point. We got to it.
Yeah.
And that was just because, not everybody listens to our Bond episodes, and I didn't want to put our triumphant return to the new year, kicking off another 12 months of podcasting. I didn't want to welcome everybody back in that episode when not everybody listens.
Okay, so this is your official welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. We're glad to have you with us again. We're excited for a new year of great discussion about some awesome music.
That is on the agenda, and hopefully it will come true. Yeah. We also hope you guys all had great holidays.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the holidays because we should mention at this point the winner of our holiday giveaway. We did do that back in December.
Oh my God, I forgot all about that. It seems like so long ago.
I know, right? It was. I mean, it was almost a month ago that we drew the name out of the hat for the big winner of that prize. And
that's right. Thanks to everybody who submitted an entry.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what you had to do.
You had to say, like, one good thing that happened in 2020. Like
right.
Something good that happened to you or something, that you were thankful for.
Yeah, it was really challenging.
Yeah, it really was. Normally, it wouldn't be quite as hard. But we did get some people that wrote in and told us some good stuff. So we selected a winner from that. And I'd like to congratulate Drew Mares for winning. Yay!
Right. I'd be happy for anybody who won. But it was especially nice for Drew because actually Drew reached out to us for the first time like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We had mentioned WPHL Channel 17 Philadelphia on one of our shows, and he had grown up watching that same channel.
Yeah.
The same music video show on that channel, so I thought that was cool.
Right, yeah. It's nice when we get to hear from people or from the area. It's like kind of cool.
So like we said at some point over the holidays on social media, I wish we had a prize for everybody who submitted an entry. But Drew, hopefully you enjoyed your autographed CD from the guys in VHXRR. My favorite CD of last year, 2020.
Oh, yeah.
The Persistence of Memory. And, of course, you got a mixtape that was compiled by Sarah and myself, and that was actually sent to you on a Maxell 60-minute cassette. So I hope you're enjoying that.
Yeah. It's really old school for us. Had one lying around, and thankfully it worked, and we filled it up with what we hope were good tunes for you. Yeah.
So Drew is the only person who knows what songs made the cut for our Permanent Record Podcast 2020 mixtape.
Oh.
Never be revealed, I'm sure. So the holidays was great. We had a good time. We hope you guys did too. But we're all back to the coal mines now. It's the middle of January. We're back at work, back to the everyday drudgery of coming up with the Permanent Record Podcast.
Gee whiz, drudgery, huh? Well, I think you did a fantastic job coming up with a topic and a format for these first couple episodes of the year, the first episodes proper of the podcast, and I hope everyone agrees.
I hope they do too. We sort of explain it. I set the table in the episode once we get talking with the guys. This stemmed just from me being a little, having some feels about the 5th anniversary of the passing of David Bowie, especially since, as I say in the episode, we watched the Bowie Celebration and the Lazarus musical that weekend. And I thought, you know what? There were 2 guys who I would love to get on the show to talk about David Bowie with. And so we reached out to them, and luckily they said, they said yeah.
And one of them is one we've had on a couple times in the past. I've always enjoyed talking with him, always enjoy listening to his own podcast. And that, of course, is Jon Lamoreaux.
I love Jon Lamoreaux.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy. And he is the host of the Hustle Podcast. And you can find that on Facebook. Look for the Hustle Podcast. And on Twitter, you can find him at the Hustle Pod.
That's right. So thanks to Jon for making time to talk to us. And also, there was one guy I really wanted to get in the episode, and I explain why once we get started, so I won't go into it here.
Yeah.
But there's a really good podcast. Comes out about once a month. It's a podcast called The D-Side. It is focused on Duran Duran, but sometimes he branches off into other topics. And the host of that show is a really good guy named David O. And I love what he has to say about music. I think he's really interesting to listen to. You can follow him on Twitter at Boys Make Noise.
I like that name.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
So check out the D side. He covers a wealth of topics and does it quite well. You know, I'm used to talking to Jon.
Yeah.
Because we've talked to him a few times on this show and other shows, and I've actually talked to him on the phone. So I'm used to hearing him. But like
Sure.
when we started the chat and I heard David's voice, it did for like a second strike me like, oh my God, that's that guy that's the voice from the podcast.
Yeah, it threw you for a loop when
Yeah.
when you're like talking to someone in quote real life.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was cool to have both of those guys join us to talk about David Bowie.
Yeah, we really enjoyed the conversation, and we hope that you will too.
Girls, they come and they go like spirits, they vanish at dawn. My heart suspended in time, like you, vanish like tears in the rain.
All right, so we are really, really excited to be joined today by two great guests. We're going to be talking about, it's 5 years on. It's hard to believe, but it is 5 years on from the passing of David Bowie. And there were two guys that when we decided we were going to talk about David Bowie, there were two guys that I knew we had to have on to join us to discuss him. And the first is the host of a great podcast called The D Side. Sometimes it's really smart, intellectual, and clever, and sometimes it's just crazy. Like you never know what you're going to get from month to month. But the reason I wanted to get this guy on is because I think it was episode 20, 21 or something. Around that time period, he did an amazing show which focused on David Bowie's much maligned album, Never Let Me Down. And I listened to that episode 2 or 3 times because I love it. His name is David O, and you know him as the host of the D Side podcast. How you doing, David?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for making time to join us. I know that you're coming off a holiday break and getting back into the groove is kind of hard to do. So we're glad you were able to join us.
This will help.
Cool. Our other guest here is somebody who has joined us before. We've appeared with him on the Pods and Sods network on some live shows that were really fun, which is kind of what we're trying to replicate here today because I couldn't talk Craig and Eric into hosting this on their channel. We're going to do it here as a podcast on our channel. Of course, I'm talking about the great Jon Lamoreaux of the Hustle podcast. How are things going, Jon?
Hi, guys. It's going well. Thanks for inviting me to do this. I can't think of a better topic for me to be on a podcast about than David Bowie.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you were excited to do it. The last 2 weeks have just been, it's kind of settled down now, but the last 2 weeks have been just a wash of David Bowie activity and people remembering him and celebrating his music. 2 weekends ago, we had, of course, I don't know if either of you guys saw it. Did you get tickets for that on live streaming event, the Bowie Celebration?
I meant to, and I didn't get around to it. You guys know my dad died suddenly of COVID over the holidays, and it kind of it's thrown the last month of my life sort of into chaos. And so I had planned to watch that video or that concert, never got around to it.
Right. And we talked a couple of weeks ago, but Sarah and I both are really sorry about your dad.
I know. Thank you. You've been really sweet about it.
Dave, did you get to see that show?
No, and for whatever reason, I can't remember. I just wasn't able. I knew I wasn't going to be able to stream it, but I did see the live show, a few years ago when it was called Celebrating David Bowie. So.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was most of the same cast of characters.
Gosh, it's been so long. I know Mr. Hudson was there. Yeah, I think it was most of the same people. Not quite as star-studded, of course, but.
That's
Where
really
are you
cool.
based out of, David?
I'm in Atlanta.
So let's see. When you saw that concert, was it like Carmine Rojas playing and Tony Visconti or Kevin Armstrong? Who would have done it?
It would have been like 2017, maybe. Oh, man, what's her name? She's the actress on Westworld. She was one of the big surprise. She's
Evan Rachel Wood?
Yes, she was a surprise guest.
Okay.
But yeah, I think Carmine was there. I honestly can't remember that. I would have to look it up to see. There was so many people.
Carmine Rojas was a name that was driving me nuts when we were watching it. I could not remember his name. Sarah was like, who's that guy? And I said, it's the guy who played bass on a lot of Let's Dance. I just can't think of his name. And I refused to cheat. I didn't look in the book and I didn't Google it and I just never thought of it. I had to look it up the next day. But that same weekend, they also, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, each day they had a live stream of the performance of Lazarus, which was the musical that David Bowie worked on shortly before his death, which was kind of like a sequel to The Man Who Fell to Earth. I have the soundtrack, so I know that. I've never seen it before. I was quite shocked because I'm used to rock musicals being like Queen, We Will Rock You, and ABBA, Mamma Mia, which make you feel really happy and everything is wonderful. And it was, of course, being David Bowie, not that sort of thing.
I've never seen it or listened to it, and I've always had the impression that it was really strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Not too surprisingly, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
David Bowie is not going to do something that's run of the mill. Yeah, this was a perfect example. It was very interesting, thought provoking, head scratching at times, but very good performances and very good singing by everybody who was involved. So it's worth checking out, I believe.
I keep waiting for it to stream somewhere for free. When you saw it, was the star Michael C. Hall from Dexter?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I don't think it was actually done live. I think it was a performance from years ago that they
yeah.
recorded and just showed it.
Yeah. I think it was recorded back in the day. I don't think it's, well, of course, there's nothing on Broadway right now or nothing
True,
playing. So.
And he did a really good job. If you guys remember, like around the release of Black Star, he actually made a few appearances on TV singing the song Lazarus to kind of promote it. And so we already knew he was a good singer. But seeing those two shows in the space of like 2 days actually.
Yeah, one right after the other.
It just made me say, man, can't believe it's 5 years. Let's do something ourselves to celebrate Bowie and talk about his music. You know, we're not going to reach more ears than that streaming concert did, but it's going to be fun to talk about it anyway.
Yeah, it's good to just get together with some fellow Bowie fans, fanatics even, and just discuss the man and his work and his music.
Totally.
Yeah. You know, when you get David O from the D side on a podcast with you, and when Duran Duran has a new single out, and that single is a cover of a David Bowie song, you basically have to start with that, right?
Pushing through the market square, so many mothers sighing. News had just come over, we had 5 years left to crying. News guy wept and told us Earth was really dying.
So here's a shocking thing. I don't have a huge emotional connection to 5 years. Sounds odd. I really started my Bowie listening from like 80 forward. So like going back, of course I know them and love them and stuff, but I didn't hear it when it first came out. So the Duran 5 years, I can almost treat it just like a new Duran song. I mean, and it delivered in spades. I mean, everybody was a little hesitant, I think, to hear it. But the thing I heard the most was Simon's voice sounds top notch. I actually really liked
Mike Garson.
Yes. His piano along with Nick's keyboard. I really enjoyed that combination. But yeah, Simon's voice, A+. Thank God it's still there.
What did you think when you first heard it, John?
I loved it. And more than anything, and maybe you guys, I'm guessing David can relate to this, as a fan of Duran Duran, this fantastic band that gets no love or respect like they deserve to get, to have them record something that strong and for Simon specifically to sound that good and to kick off the show with it. It warms my heart. Not only did I like the song, I was so happy and proud of them for nailing it like they did. Because I feel like little by little, each passing year, Duran Duran's stature and amount of love and respect and honor gets a little bit better and better and better. And one of these days, they're going to just be completely lauded and not laughed at ever again. And I look forward to those days. And so things like the 5 years cover to me is just them moving the ball just ever so slightly toward that touchdown and not moving backwards, which they have a tendency to do. They shoot themselves in the foot more often than they should.
That's right.
But it was a success, and I love them, and I'm happy that they had that success.
The one thing that I'm thinking is you're talking about that they have a lack of respect. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2 years ago inducted The Cure, last year Depeche Mode. Now that they're sort of embracing these 80s centric bands, it's inevitable. I know that people make fun of Duran Duran because they're so fashionable and handsome and they're not real musicians. That was in quotes.
Yeah.
But they're eventually,
Right.
You can't deny their importance. They're going to be at least on the ballot soon.
I agree. I think their time is coming. It won't be soon enough, but I do think it's coming.
I agree.
And a song like this, the performance that they gave, it just adds to that reason that they should definitely be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They did this song that is so, well known and loved by so many people, and they knocked it out of the park. It's amazing to me how well Simon can sing at this point in time. He sounded magnificent. His voice was soaring. It was just so well done. I feel like he put his heart and soul into that performance, and with good reason. He knew how important it was. He had so much love for the song and the artist. He wanted to do it justice, and I believe that he did. And so did the rest of the band. Even Roger with his sad little drums. I felt so sorry for him. But everybody else, they did a great job. They should be very proud of themselves, like John said.
I have a quote from Simon about the song, and it sort of gives a sense of why it was so important to him that he do a good job. I forget where I saw this, Entertainment Weekly maybe. He said, "My life as a teenager was all about David Bowie. He is the reason I started writing songs. Part of me still can't believe his death 5 years ago. But maybe that's because there's a part of me where he's still alive and always will be. When we got the Ziggy Stardust LP and put the needle in the groove, our first taste of its perfection was the song 5 Years. I can't begin to explain how honored I feel for Duran Duran to be given the opportunity to perform this icon and to place our name alongside Bowie's for this commemoration of his music." So it really was an important thing to Simon, especially, and the rest of the band, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly said.
I'm going to echo exactly what you guys said about Simon's voice. We go see all these 80s bands in concert, when there were concerts. And as a rule, most people still sound okay. They sound good.
Yeah.
Colin Hayes still sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Boy George sounds good, but he sounds totally different than he used to. But Simon still sounds like Simon, but 10 times better. And it's not, his voice is better than it's ever been, but it seems like his understanding of how to use that voice as a musical instrument has grown. I just hear someone who is way more comfortable vocalizing, which I guess it's been so long you'd expect it, but I was just really taken aback by it.
Well, I think possibly him nearly losing his voice in, what was that, 2010 or 11, might have scared him enough to start taking care of it and figuring out how to use it more precisely.
I had that same thought. I think it was shortly after the All You Need Is Now album came out. And that was such a great comeback for them. And then they had to cancel like a year or two's worth of shows because his voice was gone. God love him, but no rock star, no lead singer, especially when they're at this advanced age, is able to sound as good as they did when they were younger. There's just no way. And he's had all these stumbling blocks, but he's doing great. I'm really proud of him, really happy for him.
For some reason, I have no memory of that.
They did the first little run of like club dates right when the album, it came out in late 2010, then early 11 was like the official version. They did like a short run of shows. And they had everything scheduled in the UK, and they had to cancel like at least, because I saw them in April, and then they didn't come back again till like that fall. So they had to cancel like 6 or 9 months of shows that were already, the full tour was scheduled.
I was lucky enough to see them in one of those small clubs.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. They're just a few feet away from me.
Oh, my God.
Thank God they love Atlanta, so I always get to see those little shows too.
Good.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah, I forgot that album. That album came out on iTunes, I think, like 9 tracks, like a mini version of it. And then like the next year, the full album came out. I forgot they did that. You guys were talking about, somebody mentioned the percussion on this song.
Yeah.
In terms of that rhythm section, this doesn't sound like Duran Duran to me at all. The drums and the bass is totally unlike anything I can think of from Duran Duran. It's very restrained. It doesn't have the pulsing energy that I really associate with a Roger Taylor drum track. When you first heard it, did the sound of the rhythm section shock you at all? Or did you just say, no, it's 5 years, that's what it should sound like?
That was my reaction. It's not the song is not showy with the rhythm section in the first place necessarily. And so I wasn't knocked out or distracted or anything. I just thought Duran Duran's version of this song feels very respectful and good, but not a carbon copy.
I think his voice is far more important than the bits and pieces. I think the music is a showcase for him, basically, for the lyrics and him singing. So I think the restraint of everything else is necessary for his voice to pop as much as it does.
Yeah, I have it in my notes here. The song is actually an exercise in establishing the world of the album of Ziggy Stardust. It's filled with lyrics and vocals, and there isn't an opportunity for any instrumentalist to stand out or shine. However, on this performance, this version of it, Mike Garson tries his best to draw attention to himself near the end. I like his playing. I respect all of his work with Bowie. I think he's talented. I think he's great. But I also think that Garson might be a little bit of a fan of Mike Garson.
Yeah.
And I just think the one instrument that draws attention to itself in the song is that piano.
Yeah.
Near the end of it, it sort of took me out of the song just a little bit.
He was doing that the whole night, though. Like that was, it was like the Mike Garson show, kind of, which I appreciate to some extent. But there were sometimes it's like, dude, okay, we get it.
I could see that.
With that performance, they didn't just mime to the pre-recorded version we've heard, because I didn't see it. They actually playing, so it was like a slightly different version.
I think they were miming to it.
I think they were too. It's sort of hard to tell with that show because it was like video projections of the artist while Mike Garson was kind of live and performing as he's watching. but I think that was a pre-recorded video.
There were a couple of numbers that were obviously lip sync. Duran Duran's wasn't obvious, but there were times like there was a guy, I read that he's like a background vocalist for the Rolling Stones because I really liked
Bernard,
him.
I think was his name.
Yeah, I really liked him. So I was trying to find out who he was. He did Candidate and Sweet Thing.
Yeah, I think it was Bernard.
And there was a part where his mouth was not moving at all and, and you could hear him singing. And I was like, hey, this isn't all live. But it was still pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Let's close up discussion of this one. Traditionally, Duran Duran is a band that kind of gets a bad rap because of their covers album. Thank you. People like to bust on that record. They generally are pretty successful.
Terrible. Sorry to interrupt, but it's terrible.
I like about half of it. I never get the whole way through it, but there are some songs that I like on it. But I think people also agree they're generally successful with Bowie covers because they've done a number of them over the years. So at the end of the day, you think this is one they can be proud of?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think before this one, if pressed, I would have chosen maybe Boys Keep Swinging is my favorite one that they've done of his. They turned it into a very Duran Duran song, but this one somehow is Bowie's still in there and it's not just fully a Duran song. But yeah, this is A-list. I hope they play it live sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
That'd be great to see. That'd be amazing.
But who knows, by the time they get back doing concerts, so many years may have gone by.
I hope it's not 5 years.
Yeah, really. Hey, it's us again. I know that we were just getting started on the episode, but I don't want to interrupt the flow of the next section more than I have to. So thought we'd punch in right here because we have a few reviews that folks were kind enough to leave for us over the holidays.
Yay!
So we haven't had a chance to share them and to thank the folks who wrote them. So, Sarah, I think we have two we'll mention today, and then we'll do the next one on the next episode.
Okay, sounds like a plan. The first one I have is a 5-star review from Troy Christensen. It's really great. It's titled, "It Doesn't Often Snow at Christmas in Houston," in parentheses. Pretty clear this is a U.S. Review, and starts off by saying, "Big fan in Texas." That's awesome. In this season of gratitude, I'm very grateful for Brian and Sarah's wonderful podcast, which I've enjoyed so much over the past couple of years. Looking forward to this year's Christmas episode and many more years of learning more about the music we love, 007 interludes, comic book references, and all the rest.
I never realized I do many comic book references on the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You didn't know that?
I mean, I know that I have mentioned it at times, but I didn't think it was something that I did regularly enough that someone would notice.
Well, I guess if you're a fan of comic books, that it kind of perks your ears up every time you hear.
I wonder if Troy is a comic fan.
He seems to enjoy them, the
that's
references,
cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. Because I know Troy from Facebook.
Oh, very cool.
We talk to him on Facebook.
Yes.
Sometimes.
That's right. Well, thank you, Troy, for the very cool review, and we hope you did enjoy the Christmas episode, and we hope that you'll enjoy the ones we are bringing to you this year.
Yeah, and thanks for taking the time to type that up. I know it's not super convenient to do this, so we always appreciate when folks log into iTunes and type these reviews up for us. It helps the show in ways that we don't understand.
Weird and mysterious ways.
Yep. So thanks, Troy. And then let's see. I have a review here. It's also a 5-star review. It's from Scott1791.
Wow, he must be really old.
And Scott says, 80s Dreams. Took me 3 weeks to listen to all the episodes, and I'm so glad I did. Wow. 3 weeks. We have like 120 episodes roughly.
Yeah.
He must have had more exposure to Sarah and Brian than anybody should ever have.
I know. I don't know why you put yourself through that, but thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott. That's crazy, but incredible. Pretty much every album mentioned I have in my record collection. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The hosts break down the finer points of the albums and add witty banter along with knowledge of the band and the time frame of production. Can't wait to see what 2021 brings.
Ooh.
Man, thanks so much. That's great that, somebody listened to the whole catalog in that short a time.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. That's something that I do like hearing from folks because we grew up thinking, in our school, everybody is listening to Bon Jovi and whatever bands were popular more on the top 40 stations. And we thought that we're so cool. We have these records that nobody else has. But doing this, we find out, there are people like us all over the place.
Right. Yeah. Little scattered all over the world, really. And it's really fun to hear from you guys and hear you have some of the same memories and a lot of the same records in your collection, too. So thank you again for reaching out, writing to us, and giving us that wonderful review.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it. We have one more review from the holidays. We'll share that one in part 2 of this Bowie retrospective. And don't forget, you can help out the show if you care to by going to Apple Podcasts and typing up a review like these folks did. And we always appreciate that, and we always share them on the show.
Yes, we do. So thank you again.
All right, so now back to the Bowie. So we kind of all sat down, and it was excruciatingly difficult, but we came up with a list of our top 5 Bowie albums. We thought we could just discuss some of these, talk about why we picked them, what we like about them, and just sort of, talk some Bowie.
Well, let me talk about the main factor I used for determining my top 5 albums, because it was hard. Obviously he's got like a couple.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Although this was easier than the songs. The main factor I used for determining my top 5 albums was how much I have played them on my own straight through. And there's one exception on this list, because I've been exposed to a lot of secondhand Bowie over the past probably 27 years through Brian. He's the one that got into Bowie first. I kind of followed along. So I've become quite familiar with a lot of the catalog just by hearing Brian play the songs or the albums all over the place. But most of the albums on this list are ones that I've gone on to play in my car or at work on my own and enjoy them in their entirety. And the top 3 especially, they feel like such a complete package to me that I could not imagine not having every single song on them. And they all have a very special place in my heart. That being said, I'm going to start with one that doesn't quite fit that criteria. Number 5 on my list is Station to Station from 1976.
Love me, love me, love me, love me, say you do. Let me fly away with you. For my love is like the wind.
This may be a shock to you guys, but I didn't even consider putting this album on my top 5 list for the longest time. It honestly didn't even occur to me for a while. I would say that's because I don't think I have much history of playing this album on my own, like I said was my main criteria. But I think it's because I heard those songs all the time from Brian. As I was going through Bowie's massive song catalog to determine my 5 favorite songs, I came to realize how much I liked every song on the album. I suppose I've played the album straight through at least once, but it's not one that I have particular memories of playing over and over again. And that's why I kind of ignored it at first, but I certainly know all the songs on it. And for each song on the track listing, I think, yeah, that's a really good song.
Yeah, you may kind of forget about it because it's a 6-song album. In this day and age, we might consider it an EP.
Yeah, the length of it is album length, but the number of songs on it, you think 6 songs, that's hardly an album.
You're right. I mean, every track on here is a winner.
I love them all. And I like his voice on this album. And that's kind of important as I get through this list. I also like how there are elements of funk and plastic soul still kind of hanging around, but you can tell there's a definite shift in sound. And of course, the song Wild as the Wind is just breathtakingly beautiful, a very lovely kind of acoustic piece. And it's just, oh my gosh. So yeah, that's my number 5 album, Station to Station.
You guys, are you fans of Station to Station?
I am, yes. That might make an appearance a little later.
Yeah, I'm glad that you put this one on your list there. I didn't realize it was one that you sort of steal from me as I listen to it. I can't imagine a top 5 list without this record being on it, as you'll see as we go along. So David, before you get to your first pick, do you remember like when you first became aware of Bowie, what song it was or what aspect of his career first came to your attention?
Literally the first thing I remember is being at a friend's house and playing some type of K-Tel type compilation album. And I think it was like Star Wars themed, like knockoff Star Wars themed. And Space Oddity was on there. And that's the first thing I ever remember hearing. And of course I knew of him and I knew some of the hits and stuff. Like I said, I really, he was like my favorite band's favorite artist. So it felt like I was going backwards too much to try to listen to stuff from the 70s when I was already into Depeche Mode and everything else. So, but my number 5 is Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. Because it's how I, as a real music fan, not just a kid listening to a record, came to him through Ashes to Ashes and Fashion. And it just seems so very British. And I was fascinated by that, being a kid in suburbia.
This is like the mixing point of new wave and like what he was doing with the Berlin period.
The only way I can figure out to describe it is it was, to my ears back then, sort of overly theatrical at times. And to me, I was like, this, I don't know, this is weird. In Teenage Wildlife, it's kind of like that. Yeah. So number 5, like I said, there were lots of jockeying around with position, but that one.
There's something on this record that Sarah really dislikes, but she has a great story about it.
Oh, so in the song Fashion, there's a point where he goes dancing on the dance floor. And I have always hated that because he drags out the word into multiple syllables. It shouldn't be the dance floor. And oh, that's so terrible. Why did you do that? Well, it was intentional. And we got proof of that when we went to the David Bowie Is exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum a couple of years ago. And they had the handwritten lyrics to Fashion. And he had written the dance floor. And I thought, oh my gosh, he really did that on purpose.
Yep. I always assumed it was just he did some cocaine and just sang it crazily.
But he wrote it that way. He literally wrote it that way. I thought, oh, wow.
I always thought that same thing, Sarah. Like he extended the to make that sentence fit the melody or whatever. And even though it wasn't a natural fit, I thought, well, that's cheating a little bit, but okay, you're Bowie. I'll let you do it. That's really interesting that was planned from the beginning.
And I would have loved to have taken a picture of it, but there were, of course, no photographs allowed in there. So I did not get photographic proof, but trust me, and millions of other people have seen it, I'm sure, because that exhibit was all over the world. But yeah, I was like, oh, brother.
This is one of the records. I love the beginning of it, like the first 6 tracks. I like every single song. And then I sort of peter out near the end. But recently we've been hearing the song Teenage Wildlife a lot because Bowie, the website, is selling 6 live albums from the 90s era. And so we've been buying those as they come out. And the first 2 both have Teenage Wildlife on it. So it's been playing a lot here in our house recently, which is a really good song. I mean, if you're not careful, you'll start singing Heroes to it because the guitar line is so similar, but I think that's intentional. So good call. I mean, that album officially kicked off the 80s for Bowie and kicked off new wave for a lot of different artists. So John, before you go with your number 5 pick, can you just let us know your first memory of becoming aware of David?
Yeah, I think it was Let's Dance. I'm trying to think if anything prior to that would have seeped into my brain somehow. I don't think it did. I remember Let's Dance. I like that song. I was 10 years old. That would have been right around the time I'm starting to pay attention to what's on the radio. And I remember being really into him right then and going to visit some cousins who were older than me. I think that night, late at night on TV, the Ziggy Stardust concert movie might have been on TV. And my cousin saying to me, hey, John, there's that guy that you're really into right now. And I'm like, what? There's no way.
No, this guy has red hair. The guy I like has big curly blonde hair.
Exactly. And he's so handsome. And this guy looks weird. There's no way. But this is the thing that I think I come back to Bowie for over and over again, is how provocative it is. You know, there's something about it that's just like, wow, that was ballsy. I can't believe you did that. You know, taking those risks. It's just so, I don't know, satisfying to just see what he's going to do. To me, the music is great and his risks, his creativity or whatever, his art is great. The merging of the two is what makes him so special. If he was really boring, his music would just be fine. And if he was really theatrical, but his music sucked, well, we'd be looking at him as being an interesting figure or something like that. But he had them both. And I think they elevate each other. That's why he's as influential as he is.
That's so true. That Ziggy Stardust concert, that is the one Blu-ray DVD official release that I don't own because I know I'll never watch it because I cannot stand looking at people who have taken their eyebrows off, who shaved their eyebrows. It grosses me out.
He has a real issue with it. I've never done it. So
I just have never bought it because I know I won't watch it, but I wish I could.
Yeah.
Well, that's a cool story. That's a shocking image. If you're into Let's Dance and then see that performer on stage, I can see that would shake you up a little bit.
And I love that you mentioned that, like your older cousins introduced you to him, because I think that Bowie is an artist that a lot of people find through older relatives, older friends. It's one of those.
So right.
I really feel like that's how a lot of people end up coming into his catalog. It's kind of from somebody's older, wiser, cooler, etc.
That's it. Bowie appeals to the people who seem to know what's going on and seem really smart and seem really artistic. And when you're young and you're aspiring to be one of those people, then of course you're going to listen to Bowie because that's what the people you admire are doing. I totally agree with you.
You're talking about hearing it from a relative or whatever. This is kind of sideways from that. But the first time I ever heard Ziggy Stardust was Bauhaus's version. And I went, wow, I actually really like this song. Maybe I should listen to that guy. Because like I said, I viewed him as that old guy from the 70s. But I was like, oh, this song is awesome. So I should listen to Bowie some more, you know?
Oh, that makes me think of the girls that heard him play The Man Who Sold the World and like, oh, he does the Nirvana song. Like, don't even.
Okay. Is it me, number 5?
It is you, number 5. Well, you're
Okay.
number 1 in my book, but we're up
Thanks,
to your
pal.
number 5 choice.
Thanks, buddy. So the albums thing, this is kind of all over the place, but today this is my top 5, I think.
I think that's what everyone will say.
Yeah, and I'll give you reasons why as we go along. But I think number 5 for me, I'm going to go with Aladdin Sane.
Just played it before we got on here to talk.
Really? Yeah, 73. To me, I see Aladdin Sane as being sort of the sequel to Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust. And so I know if I had been the kid like Simon or Nick Rhodes or whoever that bought Ziggy Stardust when it came out, I'm sure it would have been life-changing to me. I feel like as far as it goes with Bowie, I know so many of these albums so well and so many of the songs so well that Ziggy doesn't have as many surprises left for me to discover as Aladdin Sane does. And so my picks, both songs and albums, are often the ones that I'm not sick of anything that Bowie's done, but they're the albums and the songs that I still find new nuggets. They still move me. And I feel like when I play Aladdin Sane on, I'm still learning new things. I'm still discovering new feelings and new thoughts about the music. Whereas with Ziggy Stardust, it's sort of played out. I know that one. So I just think the songs in Aladdin Sane are really strong. I mean, Watch That Man, talk about Mike Garson, his piano solo on the song Aladdin Sane, I think is one of the most beautiful pieces of piano music ever. I know
It's amazing.
I know he can be overwrought at times, but that is perfection right there. But all of them, Panic in Detroit, Genie. Aladdin Sane is a great primer. You want to show somebody what Ziggy Stardust was all about, you can give them that and they'll learn and they'll like it.
That was one that when I first got it, I remember having difficulty getting the whole way through it. For some reason, I wasn't a huge fan of it. And as time has gone on, it's become one of my favorites to listen to. It didn't make my top 5, but I'm not sure now what my problem was with it because I'm sitting here looking at the track listing and every song is good. Like there isn't a bad song on this album.
Yeah, I think it's strong.
Also, one of his most iconic album covers, the artwork in the sleeve is great for this one.
I had a giant poster of it on my wall that was about 6 feet by, 4 feet or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And that was cool.
That's cool. Facebook is spying on me recently because just this morning I had a targeted Facebook ad for Aladdin Sane socks.
Socks, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
Like with that album, like the Genie is obviously, if there's anything that might be overplayed, it'd be that song. Do you find like those songs, the hits, the singles hit differently when you listen to them in the album? Or are you like, oh, Genie, let's go ahead and go to the next one?
That's a really good question, David. And because like Genie is fine. I've never
Right.
I never put that song on because I want to hear it. Yeah, I think I probably would be more open to it, listening to the whole album and the concept of an album. You know, if I put Aladdin Sane in the car while I'm on a drive and we come to track 9 and Genie comes on, I'm more likely to sit through it because I've enjoyed the whole album experience versus if it were to come on the radio or something, I might change the station to see if something more interesting is on.
Agreed.
That's how I am with Diamond Dogs. I would never leave Diamond Dogs on the radio, but in the context of the record, I'm fine with it.
I would play Duran Duran's version of Diamond Dogs.
So like Drive-In Saturday, wasn't that another song he submitted to Mott the Hoople? Watch That Man. Lulu did a cover of that song, I think I remember. And then, of course, there's the cover of the Rolling Stones, Let's Spend the Night Together. I remember when I found out that was a cover.
Oh,
for
you
many
thought it
years,
was
I
Bowie's
assumed
song
was,
first?
Yeah, I thought it was Bowie's song first. And I think for a while, I may have thought that Rebel Rebel was the Rolling Stones before I got into Bowie enough to know his catalog.
Oh, that's funny.
I think I thought that was the Rolling Stones. So I've confused those two bands over the years.
I do like the song Genie. I like Poor Little Greenie, and I like to say sleeps in a capsule.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Okay, well, my choice for number 5, the album in question, Mojo Magazine says, there are 2 things the uninitiated need to know about this album. First, it's generally regarded as Bowie's first true masterpiece, an exquisitely orchestrated piano-based singer-songwriter album sandwiched between the metal monster, The Man Who Sold the World, and the glam trailblazer Ziggy Stardust. So I just basically gave it away.
Oh.
The second thing you need to know is that trying to decode its, quote, meaning will seriously mess with your head. Of course, I'm talking about Hunky Dory from 1971.
Oh, my heart's in the basement. My weekends at an all-time low. 'cause she's hoping to score. So I can't see her letting him go. Walk out of her heart, walk out of her mind. Oh, not her. She's so swishy in her satin and tan. In her frock coat and bibbidi-bobbidi hat. Oh, God, I could do better than that.
I've always loved this album from listen number one. The creation of this record is really intriguing to me because the point in time that he was working on this, he hadn't really had a hit beyond the single Space Oddity, which was a pretty big hit. But I think it was a hit because it was like a novelty. They played it during the moon landing or something like that. And he was getting pretty frustrated that he couldn't replicate that success. Around this time, he had also written a song based on this, I'm going to mispronounce the name, Comme des Habitudes. It's a French song. It was a hit in France. And he turned the music of that into a song called Even a Fool Learns to Love, but no label was interested in releasing it. But not too long after that, Paul Anka used that same song to come up with the song My Way. And Bowie was really frustrated that, he lost his chance to write My Way, which became a standard. So that frustration specifically leads him to write Life on Mars and causes him to really get serious. On the prior album, the producer had been frustrated with Bowie just sitting around talking with Angie and not focusing on work. And that is going to change with this album. He starts to take it seriously. Eyes on the prize. He's focused on success. There are so many different influences on this record. He has these nightly candlelit discussions on the occult in his mansion, which is kind of falling apart. His half-brother, Terry, had always had some issues mentally, but he was getting worse. He's schizophrenic and he's getting even worse than he had been. And he's a father for the first time. He has all these pressures on him, and that all gets channeled into the songwriting. This is the Bowie album that is most influenced by the things that he loves, the books that he loves, the movies that he sees, and other people's music that he loves and respects. Because at this point, he had a lot of time to sit around and absorb those things. He wasn't having hits, and he was trying to get out of his first contract. So he had a lot of time to himself. After this, until his retirement in 2004, he never has that much free time again. So in this record, there are things on here that are very David Bowie-ish, but you're also getting influences from outside sources, like Queen Bitch is the closest thing you can get to a Velvet Underground song without putting on the Velvet Underground.
Well, as soon as you said the name, I clicked on it to look at the track list, and I was like, to me, it reads almost like a greatest hits of sorts. I mean, yes. Okay, yes, I actually do love this album. Like when Life on Mars is on an album, I mean, you got changes to Life on Mars and Quicksand. I mean, how'd you describe it? You said piano bass when you first described it. Instantly, I clicked on Hunky Dory. I was like, I know what album you're talking about. But
piano-based singer-songwriter.
Yes. It is probably one of the ones that I would go back to the most of the first decade, definitely.
Yeah, I'll agree. And I'll just say that this one also might make an appearance later on for me. So I'll save my comments.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to say too much more because it's soon my turn to talk again. And well.
All right. Well, Sarah, before you go and tell us your number 4 album, let me ask the same question of you that I threw out to the other guys. Do you have any recollection of your first Bowie memory?
I think it really was around the same time as Jon discovered him. It was the Let's Dance era. I think Let's Dance and Modern Love. I remember those songs. And when we talked about the album on our podcast, I think I mentioned that I remember him in those suits and that hair. And that was really the first time I knew about him. I don't think I knew about him in the 70s because that wasn't the type of music that was playing in our house or even on the radios that we listened to. So the songs from Let's Dance were on the radio. They were on MTV. And that was my way of getting music back then. So that's how I first came to know Bowie.
Cool.
Once I got to know him then, I kind of dropped off the radar for a long time until you rediscovered him. But then as we rediscovered him, then we got to learn his earlier catalog. And that brings me up to my number 4 choice, which is, how about it?
Hunky Dory?
Yeah. So that was extremely good timing. You just did all that lead up and explanation and reviews and everything. I don't have to go into all that, which I didn't have it in my notes anyway. So it works out really well. This is a bit of an anomaly on my list for a couple of reasons. I think I said that the last time. This is a shock. Well, this one is an anomaly because it is a really early album. And honestly, I am not often a fan of how he sings in these first few years of his career. I just don't like the voices that he uses.
He sings in characters a lot. I was not used to that.
Yeah. I mean, this is a period where he is still trying to invent himself for the first time, really. I mean, well, not the first time, but he's still trying to figure out who he wants to be as a pop star, as a rock star. And I think on this album, you're still seeing that happening. And I think the characters, like you're saying, is one way of him trying those things out and seeing how they work. There's some songs that I don't really like how he's singing as much, but I love the songs anyway, even though I don't love every song on this album. I don't even know some of them as well as I know the other ones. And I guess that's not surprising because it does have some humongous hits. I know I've played this one more than once on my own, so it meets that criteria for sure. And there are several songs on here, as David astutely pointed out, that are so good, so iconic that they overshadow anything else I might not like quite as much. Changes, Life on Mars, Oh You Pretty Things, Quicksand, a couple others. They really stand out. There's just a couple on here that I don't like as much, but that doesn't matter because this album just gives me that warm feeling. When I hear the songs on this album, when I see the cover, for goodness sakes, I think, hunky dory, and it's just so great. And I think maybe some of that is due to the fact that it was released the year I was born. Maybe there's kind of a nostalgia thing going on there, but I do think this is a wonderful album and it's my number 4.
Excellent choice.
John may have it coming up, so we're not going to go into too much more detail.
Save it.
So we'll skip over to David for his number 4 choice.
One of my criteria also was just what do I listen to the most? And it was kind of easy to just whip out 5 albums that I just always play. And I really have kind of very little to say about this one. So I'm kind of interested to see what you guys have to say. I just plain old listen to it a lot, and that is Reality.
See the great white star over Battery Park. Then the flag flies over, but I won't look at that scar. Oh, my nuclear baby, star. All my idiot trends, all my idiot questions.
Well, I'm always drawn to sort of more whatever is the artist's newest thing. And I just feel like it has everything Bowie, but in what was that, 2003? It showed me he's still doing it. And I kind of want to hear what fans of the early stuff think about that.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to say too much on this one either. That's kind of a clue.
I will probably make a few comments on this in about 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, so we're right there with you, David.
All right, good.
I'll do the heavy lifting on this one then, maybe.
All right, go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you, John.
This is not on my list, but it could have been. I do think New Killer Star should have been a hit. I think it's one of his strongest singles of his entire career, but especially of the 90s until the end of his career. That thing should have got played on the radio more than it did. I do think Reality gets lost in the shuffle, Prior to that, Earthling was his drum and bass album. And Hours, that's my least favorite Bowie album by far, by the way. Reality was an album that didn't come with a concept built in like so many of his other albums do.
Mm-hmm.
It was just more of a straightforward pop rock album, because it was time to put out an album. There wasn't some giant concept like an art thing like Outside was or whatever.
Right. And
So I think
have
it
that
gets-
in my notes. Like, why does nobody talk about it? I came after Heathen pretty quickly, though, so they might be blurred a little bit, too.
I wonder if that's it too. And I think Heathen, for a lot of people, was such a return to form.
Yes.
Now, I like Outside. That's one of my favorite, one of the stronger Bowie albums. But a lot of people weren't into it. So Outside, Earthling, and it's Bowie trying to keep up with the times. And then finally, Heathen comes out. It's produced by Visconti, and it's strong, and it's a real return to form for some people. And then I just think Reality, like I was saying about Aladdin Sane, is sort of the distant sequel or the lost stepchild of Heathen, and it doesn't deserve to be, especially New Killer Star. That was just a fantastic single.
That was a great single, as was Never Get Old. I think that was as good a pop song as he had written in 20 years, and it's a shame that that didn't get radio play either. And they tried their best. I mean, they did They did that mashup version called Rebel Never Get Old, or something where it mixed it with Rebel Rebel.
Right, it's a lot of fun.
It is, and they were trying to get that on the radio, but it just wasn't working. You know what? Even though this may confuse things, let me jump over John and go next, because number 4 on my list is also Reality. Since we're talking about it, let me just jump in.
That makes sense.
John mentioned like the artiness of Heathen, how it was a return to form. I obviously like this album a lot more than Heathen, because Heathen's not in my top 5. But when you put this record on, there's just a sound to it, like a workman-like sound. That seems a little more insulting than I mean it to be. But I saw today that this record was recorded at a studio in NoHo. And I was like, what's NoHo? So I had to look it up because I'm not worldly. NoHo is the opposite of Soho. And it's a primarily residential upper-class neighborhood in the New York City borough of Manhattan. And I think you can hear that in the music. It's not cutting edge at all. It's just good, solid songwriting, great singing, and amazing band playing with them. I remember at the time, this one, I think when it came out, it was getting a lot of good press and people were saying complimentary things about it. But I think you're right. As time has gone on, it's kind of gone by the wayside. And people, I think, are focused more on Heathen. And my hope is, Bowie is releasing those box sets of like 5 albums at a time. They seem to have stalled out. But if they pick it up with the 90s albums and this one gets a release, maybe people will take a second look at it and revisit it and see what they think about it. I saw a review today that mentioned critics have said that there are pieces of Bowie's past, present, and future on this record, and that they all combine together into something that sounds amazingly contemporary, which I think is very true. When you listen to that record, I think it still sounds pretty contemporary.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound all that dated.
No, it's not like Earthling, which definitely has of its time. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but this is much more, I think, timeless.
Yeah. Uncut Magazine said it was a scattershot portrait of a man in his mid-50s, a little lost, a lot in love, above all, demonstrably alive. Reality is neither melancholic nor backwards looking. It's the sound of pop's greatest modernists still pushing forward. I think that's true.
Yeah, I could see that. I just think comparatively to his other albums, he doesn't have as much to say with reality. And we often look to Bowie to say something, make a broad artistic statement in almost everything he does. And reality wasn't that statement. It was just a straightforward pop rock record. I don't know if sometimes people don't know what to do with that. When it's Bowie anyway. When it's someone else, it's fine. But when it's Bowie, it's like, what am I doing with this? What's the story here?
I wouldn't dispute what you're saying. I saw a quote from him where he said, by the end of the Heathen tour, he just wanted to harness the power of his live band, which he really liked. And he said, this new album should reflect where I am now, how I live, the people I know, and make music with. I don't think he had any big statement he wanted to make. He just sort of wanted to have fun with people he had been enjoying playing with on the road. So, David, I agree with you. Number 4 Bowie album.
All right.
So let's jump back to Jon since I skipped him there. Jon, what's your number 4 choice?
Oh, boy. People are going to get mad at me probably for this one. These lists are always... Maybe you guys can relate. The conflict with these lists is, do I go with my personal favorites or do I go with the ones that I think have the most artistic merit? Or, do I go with the ones that make me happy? Do I go to the ones I listen to the most? Do I go with the ones I would give to somebody else to turn them on to this person? So my number 4 pick is a purely selfish pick because I would never give somebody this album, and that's never let me down.
I love it.
I know that it lacks artistic merit. I know that it is not a strong album, but for whatever reason, I go back to it a lot and talk about finding new things and hidden things that I didn't hear before. I remember so well, I had a sleepover with my best friend, David Hoy, and we went to the mall the next day and we took our allowance and he bought an Iron Maiden tape and I bought the new David Bowie and it was this one. And I was so excited and I remember listening to it on my little boombox in my bedroom with him and he's playing Run to the Hills and I'm like, yes, that song's killer. Wait till you hear the new David Bowie. And every passing song is like, okay, well, that one wasn't very good, but the next one's going to be great. Believe me, trust me on this. And I just wanted it to be good, and it wasn't. And it was so much noise. It's just clanging. Every song is overproduced to the hilt. There are so many things piled on top of each other. But having said that, I prefer it to the new remix that came out. It's a sentimental choice. I admit it completely. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it has value, but what I'm saying is that it means something to me still. And when I listen to it, I like it a little bit more all the time. I can't deny it. So I put it in at number 4.
We're all being quiet to let David chime in now.
Yeah, I was like, man, I'm going to hold off all my comments for obvious reasons. But my question with that is, why do we keep going back to it? I'm far more drawn to something that everybody says is horrible than something that everybody says is great.
Same.
And the more you listen to Never Let Me Down, the better it gets. I'm like, this isn't that bad. Because honestly, I didn't listen to it forever.
Same.
And I was like, what? This isn't that bad. I mean, yeah, it's production, all that, but I don't see why everybody hates it so much. I would switch around a few things. I would put on a couple of the B-sides and take off a couple if I were to make it perfect, but
there
more
are
about
so many
that in
good
a minute.
B-sides
Oh
from
my
this
gosh.
era. You're right.
Julie.
Girls,
Yeah,
Julie.
Julie.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question then. Too Dizzy. Why did he hate that so much? It's literally erased from his whole entire career. It's
I
not
know.
that, like, what's so
No.
bad about Too Dizzy?
I agree. It's fine.
You know what? I have never heard that song because I have never owned a version of the album with it on it. And because I knew that he wanted it erased, I have never searched it out.
out of deference to him.
Yeah,
You can
I'm
get
sure
it
it's on
pretty
YouTube.
cheaply on Discogs still. I got the vinyl like for under $10 with Too Dizzy on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Too Dizzy was on my original cassette that I bought that day.
Yeah, I'm sure I could probably just hear it on YouTube for free, but out of respect to the Thin White Duke, I haven't done it.
Don't listen to him.
I will say that Time Will Crawl just missed being in my top 5 song list. That came in at number 6.
Oh, wow.
I love that song.
Yeah.
I
You know
think
what?
it's one of his best tunes.
You know, it's strange. I've never cared for that song that much.
That's my least favorite on the album.
Me too.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that one. I mean,
Yeah.
from listen 1, it stuck out to me as like my favorite song. It's so wonderfully 80s.
It is.
I would rather listen to the original version of this over the remix version as well. Although I do like a lot of things about that remix album. And one of the things I really enjoy about it, it really illustrates how good Zeros is, the song Zeros. It's so much better to understand the good qualities of that tune on that version. It sounds like something that could have been on one of those early, it could have been on Hunky Dory maybe.
Yeah.
Because he uses the different voices. He sings with the little Cockney accent in there.
Yeah.
Nice harmonies. I love that song now. I liked it
too.
before, but I love it now.
I have a whole theory on that song should have been, when he wrote that and recorded it, I'm imagining him thinking, I've just found the song that I'm going to close every concert with for the rest of my career. We've done Heroes and now we're doing Zeros. And,
oh yeah,
I'm sure that's, and so in his mind, it's a bookend in a lot of ways to everything that came before. And it's got the anthemic, like, Hey Jude chorus at the end. There's all the weird, obviously fake crowd noise at the beginning. And, but I imagine him thinking, guys, we nailed this. This is going to be the thing from now on. And I bet he never performed it because this album got torpedoed so badly. I would love to have heard it.
Right.
I've seen him live twice. If he had ended the show with Zeros, just being like, screw you guys. I believe in this song. I'm closing the show with it. I'd love to hear that,
Insert my entire episode right here because that was kind of my biggest point is Zeros is our 80s heroes. He's literally saying you're Zero, but I'm singing for you. That's who didn't feel that way when you were 17 or whatever, however old you were when you listened to it.
David, I'm having such flashbacks right now because I remember listening to your episode talking about this and thinking, here's a guy that gets it. And now here we are. We didn't know each other then. We didn't know that we'd be doing this. And now I'm talking to the guy who I connected with so long ago on that
Thank
episode.
God somebody did. You have no idea how scared I was to put together an episode on the awesomeness of Never Let Me Down.
No, it's there.
or all of the 80s, basically.
And the crazy thing is, I was telling Sarah about it today because I listen to a lot more podcasts than she does. And I said, Sarah, I listened to this like 2 or 3 times when you released it. I got to check though, because I'm pretty sure it was 2 parts. So I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about when he comes on. And I looked, it was not 2 parts.
No.
It's 1 episode and it was 20 minutes long.
Yeah, it's only like 20 minutes.
You pack so much good
I
discussion
could
into
go
that
on
20
and
minutes.
on.
I remember it as being like, I seriously thought it was like an hour of coverage of this
I
album.
have pages of notes. I had to greatly edit myself, but I figure most people aren't going to listen to me more for like 20 minutes alone anyway. So
You should save those notes because someday you should write the definitive book of this album.
Yeah.
Save all that research.
Oh, I have it. I mean, I literally listened to Never Let Me Down. Like, when was that episode? This past summer, like for 2 months.
Well, good.
Both
I'm
versions.
glad this is a friendly audience for me to go out on that ledge for
I
Never
feel
Let
a lot
Me Down.
better about where I placed it in my list now.
Okay. Hey, I drank out of a coffee mug this morning with that album cover on it. So
Yes, good.
Yeah.
Good. I
Yeah,
don't
great
feel so
album. I don't
alone.
have it on my list, but I dig it. I play it a lot.
I mean, we're all 80s fans. That's, I think, and it's so,
True.
so 80s. So, I mean,
I
come
can
on.
see how someone, who likes 70s Bowie would be like, oh, hell no,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
we
for
aren't-
sure.
We aren't that. We're 80s kids.
Yep.
Right.
Agreed.
And what about Glass Spider? I love that Glass Spider exists. This crazy, bizarre story.
I love
baby
it.
spiders who have to fend for themselves.
Well, the song is so good. I mean, you cut off that whole intro and everything, and it's still a fantastic song.
Yeah, it
you
gets
know?
stuck in your head. I mean, I remember back when I used to have to go to work in the office, I'd be walking down the halls at work. Mama, come back because the water's up. What are you singing? Oh, nothing. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Never you mind.
Great
Yeah.
tune. I'm glad you picked that one.
Good, thanks.
All right, back out of the 80s, and let's go to the 90s. How about it? My number 3 album is Earthling from 1997.
Wow, you're the only person on earth that feels this way.
Just
Sarah.
wait.
Okay.
No, she's
Oh,
not.
whoa!
What did you just do there?
No, I'm glad we've got 2 Earthling fans here. You're the only 2 there is anywhere.
There is?
This is great.
Oh, yeah? Hey. I'm going to give Brian a really good chance to put in a lovely little soundbite if you want to at some point here in the post. You know, I was dating Brian in the mid 90s. I've been dating him we've been together forever. But when he started getting into David Bowie, it was around the mid 90s. And as I mentioned earlier, he did play Bowie songs and albums when I was around him at that time. But it took me until Earthling to finally fully climb aboard the Bowie train. Insert soundbite there.
Train time.
Yeah. I am quite sure that this is the first Bowie album that I played straight through over and over again. That probably shocks a lot of people, but it's the truth. It was so different from the other versions of Bowie that I had been familiar with. It really connected with me. I mean, all these crazy synthesizers, ridiculously fast dance beats, all that stuff. I guess, that has something to do with it because I do love me a good fast dance song. I love synthesizers. There's obviously some really amazing guitars on here too. I just loved the whole sound of it. And it all just kind of clicked with me.
It wasn't like years went on without you embracing Bowie, because I actually decided to get into Bowie because I was a huge Queen fan from like 1990 onwards. And I had run out of Queen things to buy. I had everything that I imported, everything that I could find. I had all the domestic releases. And I said, oh, you know what? That guy who sings on Under Pressure with them, David Bowie, he has a lot of albums. Maybe I should look into him.
Yeah.
Right around that time, he had released the single for Heart's Filthy Lesson. So I bought that single. That's when I got into Bowie. So what year was Outside? 95?
95.
95.
So,
Yeah.
so I was only into him for 2 years before you embraced Earthling. So.
Okay. So that isn't too bad.
Yep.
Yeah. But I do remember that happening. And I kind of rolled my eyes when you were like, well, I'm going to get into Bowie now because he was with Queen. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. And like, oh, here's something else. Well, yeah, here we are now. So the other cool thing about this album for me, the other connection I have with it is that we got to see David Bowie on this tour, on the Earthling tour at a really small venue. I think it was pretty small, called the Electric Factory in Philadelphia, one of his major cities that he loves. That was super cool. It's now called the Franklin Music Hall, and it only seats, it's a standing room only kind of place. It only holds about 2,700 people. And we were there in that crowd seeing him perform Earthling and other songs, of course. That was super cool.
And if you take a look at the set list of that tour, the set list has some amazing songs on it. There were some great historically important Bowie tracks performed on that tour.
Yeah.
Plus, we got to hit those giant inflatable eyeballs that he would throw out into the crowd. Remember those?
I hate those.
Oh,
I do. I just want to watch the show. I don't want to be thinking about where's the ball? Am I going to get hit in the head? Am I supposed to hit it to someone else now? Just let me focus.
Last time Duran, they do it during Rio. I grabbed the ball, 2 different balls, and deflated them and just set them down beside me.
Perfect.
And
You're my kind of guy, David.
Were people booing you? Boo.
I should have sold them later.
Yeah, really. Deflated Duran balls. Ooh, that just doesn't sound so good.
Nope, move along.
Yeah. I think at the show we were at, people threw some stuffed pigs onto the stage when he sang When Pigs Can Fly in 7 Years in Tibet.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah, so I love this album, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. So if you're not ashamed to admit you like Never Let Me Down, John, I can say 10 years later, I like this one.
I like this album too, in the sense that I like almost everything he's done. I don't go back to it very often at all. It is so of its time, which I know a lot of people say that about 80s music. Oh, it sounds so 80s or it sounds so dated. And usually that's a good thing to me. And I imagine you guys too. It's like, well, good. If it sounds very 80s, then I'm probably going to like it.
Oh, yeah.
But but this one isn't quite there for me. I do think, and one point I kind of wanted to make is I feel like in the 80s, the bands that were influenced by David Bowie, like Duran Duran or Culture Club or Thompson Twins or anyone else, are starting to surpass Bowie artistically. So Bowie sets this template of exploration, and all these bands feel that, and they go out and do it. And by the 80s, they're starting to get famous and big and have hits on the radio. And now he's following the people who had been following him. He's not necessarily the trendsetter anymore. Does that make sense? And from Let's Dance, all these albums are strong. They're just following trends versus setting trends. And from Last Dance till, I think Heathen is probably the first album in a long time where he just seems to be doing what he wants, making his own statement, not necessarily following one. This album is such a clear, oh, everyone's into drum and bass. I'll make a drum and bass album. Why not? That's what the kids are doing. Of course, he does it in his own way, which is more masterful than most of the people who are doing this. It's just, it's an exercise. I don't go back to it very often because why? Why do you need to? But I'm glad you do. That's fun.
Well, thanks, John. I'm glad you approve.
Yeah, you bet.
I'm going to go ahead and just say, yeah, that's my number 3 also. So I'll combine my comments here. For 8 years, I was heavy into club music. I listened to everything else, but I was always going out, DJing. Dance music was absolutely everything to me. With Heart's Filthy Lesson and Hello Space Boy, it sort of eased us into that because Pet Shop Boys had a remix.
Such a good version.
Oh, yeah.
And with Earthling, I was like, finally, he doesn't sound like he's old. You know what I mean? Like the music caught up to what I was listening to. And like you said, I think it is an experiment, but I think it's because he likes to experiment, not because he's trying to ride a bandwagon. And I do think it gets labeled as the drum and bass album when it is a little bit more than that. Obviously, it has a lot of that in it, but it has, if you listen, one of the things I wrote down was it just has a lot of good melodic hooks, really short ones, but the songs are there. Like Battle for Britain has a hook I love in it, and 7 Years in Tibet, you mentioned, that's one of my favorites. So
yeah, it's a great song.
Yeah.
I remember people at the time criticizing him for being an old dude and jumping on the drum and bass train. But he didn't just sort of come along and exploit it. I saw an interview with him where he said, people don't really know this, but for like 6 months, he and the band were going to festivals and doing small shows under a different name inside tents and stuff. And we did like a jungle show, but we didn't say it was David Bowie. So we had experience with this music. We weren't exploiting it. We actually loved it and wanted to be a part of it. So I thought that was really neat.
And the sound of the album, one of my favorite albums back to dance music is Voodoo You by Lords of Acid from 94 or 5. And they're very heavy guitars with it. And Earthling I'm like, oh, this sounds like Lords of Acid. It didn't just sound like drum and bass. So I don't know. I just put it on a lot. I listened to it a lot.
I remember not being familiar with really a lot of 90s music. I really turned off my antennas during the 90s because I didn't really like what I was hearing on the radio. But when I heard this, it sounded unlike anything that I was familiar with. I thought this was like new music, like new style music. And then I found out, it was influenced by so many other bands. But I love this album too. All right, Mr. Lamoreaux, since you don't like their number 3 choices, what's your number 3 choice?
Well, all the rest of my choices have come up in conversation already. So number 3 for me is Hunky Dory. I just think that's a masterpiece of his early career. I'd take that one. It's more interesting to me than the Space Oddity album is. It hasn't come up before, but I really love the song The Beulah Brothers. It's interesting about how we mature and how music sounds to us as we get older. I remember the thing that probably solidified my fandom of David Bowie was that I remember back in like 1984, my mom was the main office manager of the mall. So this big mall in my neighborhood, the president of the mall is in the office and she's his assistant. So I practically lived in this mall. Every day in the summer, we would go and just walk up and down the mall. And I'd go into my mom's office and sneak some money so I could eat at the food court, or I'd buy a cassette and we'd try and pick up girls and whatever. It would play in the arcade. That was my life. And there was a Walgreens or a Woolworths in the mall, and there was a discount bin of cutout cassettes like there used to be back in the day. And there were tons of old David Bowie cassettes in this bin, and they were always like $3.99 or $4.99. My allowance was $10 a week, so I could get 2 cassettes with my allowance. And I would tell my mom, just go in there and buy whatever Bowie cassettes you find. I don't even care. And she would come home with, it was all the old ones. It was Hunky Dory. It was Ziggy. It was the Golden Years compilation. It was the Fame and Fashion compilation. It was all the old stuff, pin-ups. And I had a big tape collection back in the day, and they came in these big cases with drawers. I had them in order of my favorite to least favorite cassette. And whenever I'd get a new cassette, I'd listen to it, and then I'd decide, okay, it should go in like drawer number 4 in about the middle. That's where I like it. I remember listening to Hunky Dory and hating it. And it was in the absolute dead last spot in my whole tape collection.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yes, I know, because I just didn't get it at all. I was so bored because this wasn't the Let's Dance guy. This wasn't even the Ziggy Stardust guy. Who is this guy? This is so mellow and boring. But every time I would listen to it, it would keep moving up and up and up in my tape collection to where, it's no longer out of like 12 drawers. It went from being the 12th drawer. Then next time it's in the 10th, and then it moves up to the 7th. And then it just keeps going up further and further until it was near the top. I just think it's a masterpiece of an album. I love Andy Warhol. I love Queen Bitch is such a great song. And of course, Life on Mars. There's only a couple of songs on there I don't like. I'm not crazy about the song for Bob Dylan. 8-Line Poem's a little weird, but everything else is just great. That was him in his Anthony Newley period, but he did it well. And that's another album I go back to because I think it's just so strong.
How old did you say you were?
Probably 11 or 12.
It seems to me like at age 11, a kid would get a kick out of the songs Kooks and Andy Warhol just because they're so zany and off the wall. I would think that as an 11-year-old, you might at least like those.
I did. Kooks was a little too cute. It was a little too show-tuney for me. But Andy Warhol had a great riff, and I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
And I liked that eventually, the beginning of Breakfast Club, which at the time was like my favorite movie of all time, has the Bowie quote from Changes on it. And that was this intersection of my favorite artist that no one else in Utah where I'm growing up knows anything about, except for me. A Bowie quote at the beginning of my favorite movie. I feel really cool because all my favorite things are coming together in one,
Yeah, that's awesome.
What a great story, John. Thank you for sharing that. That's so fun. I love it. I'm sitting here grinning.
Did your mom get a mall discount on those CDs or on the tapes?
That's a really good question. I don't think so. They were so cheap. Maybe not. I don't know.
She pocketed that money anyway. You never saw it again.
Right.
All right. Well, my number 3 song, let's see if you can guess what it is.
Album?
Number 3 album. Can I tell you what Classic Pop magazine said about it? This album feels like Bowie is channeling the aspects of music that most interested him at the time into songs designed to be more accessible than those on Outside. There's a sense that having proven that he still had his experimental chops on that album, he's now keen to cut loose, have fun, and to re-engage a mass audience again, this time on his terms. Fundamentally, this is a pop album, and with the Prodigy's Fat of the Land and the Chemical Brothers' Dig Your Own Hole released a few months after this one, it helped pave the way for a more genre-plural music scene. Not for the first time, David Bowie was ahead of the curve.
Gee, that's an interesting.
Wow.
Right.
Okay. I am clearly the odd man out here. I need to go back and listen to Earthling right away.
All 3 of us had Earthling at number 3. That's crazy.
I love that. 3 for 3 on number 3.
Now, as I typed that review into my notes, not for the first time, David Bowie was ahead of the curve. That review is looking back on the album from a couple years ago. It wasn't written at the time. And I do think at the time, the critical response was more that Bowie was copying what he was hearing in the clubs. And I remember there being some eye rolling, over the fact that a 50-year-old was writing music like this. But personally, I never really thought that age should impact what kind of music you want to make. And I loved what he was doing.
Yeah.
Well, and the videos, he looked amazing for Little Wonder.
Did.
I don't know if you remember, there was a dance music electronica show on MTV called Amp, like at midnight, that played like 2 hours of all like weird electronica stuff. And Little Wonder was all over that, and it fit right in. He didn't look old. He was right with everything else at the time.
I love that. He had the orange spiky hair. He had the little soul patch on his chin, the Union Jack coat, which to me is like super iconic. And you know what? This was the album that gave him his second Grammy nomination. He had only been nominated for a Grammy twice, and this was one of them for Best Alternative Album.
Awesome.
I did have an Earthling poster on my wall all through college, if that means anything.
Well, can I have it? Since you don't like it?
No, I still want it. My wife won't let me put it up, but I'll find a way.
Oh, man. Put it on the back of a door or something.
I should.
So the music on this album had a major, I put it all in capitals, major impact on me. And you can tell, I'm placing it number 3. This was the first new Bowie album to be released since I had become a fan. And like I said before, I'd never really heard anything like it because I had switched off from a lot of what was going on. But another thing that made a big impact on me was the album cover. I would say that, in fact, the highlight of the David Bowie Is exhibition at the Brooklyn Museum was seeing this actual jacket in person. I remember when we entered the room that it was in, I saw it and I was trying to focus because, you're supposed to read everything in order, look at the pictures and read the plaques on the wall. But I kept looking at the jacket, couldn't take my eyes off it. And then when we finally got to it, I didn't want to leave it. Like I stood and looked at that jacket more than anything in the whole exhibit.
I'm pretty sure we went back to that jacket more than once before we left finally for the day because you just wanted to go see it again.
I did. That legitimately felt like I was seeing rock music history, looking at that Union Jack coat.
And you were.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, yeah, it was really, really cool to see it in person. It's like, wow, that's the jacket from the cover. Wow.
So, John, all your friends are saying Earthling is the album.
What's wrong with you, John?
I'm the weirdo.
If you compare it to Bowie's albums, it does sound weird. But if you compare it to everything else in '97, if you look at Medazoland, look at Depeche Mode's Ultra, it goes with that stuff. So listen to it as a 1997 album, not a Bowie album, and see what you think.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Medazoland. That's a really neat comparison. I would like to listen to them back to back, Medazoland and Earthling, and see how they mesh.
They seem pretty comparable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you, David. Great idea.
All right, Sarah, that brings us up to your number 2 album.
Oh boy. All right. Number 2. These top 2 were really not too hard for me. The other one, well, even the top 3 really weren't too hard because they are based on me playing them all the time and loving the entire package. That's, like I said, my original reasoning behind picking these albums. And this album was such a wonderful surprise when it came out. So I guess you can figure out what it was because there weren't too many that were big surprises. Number 2 is The Next Day.
Waiting for the first move, satyrs and their child wives. Waiting for the last move, soaking up our primitive world. Stars are never sleeping. Dead ones and the living. They're jealous.
And that is my number 2 album.
I really wanted to put this on my list and I didn't.
Oh, wow.
I really wanted to. This is a good one.
Yeah. Oh, I really, really love this one. I played this one all the time in my car in 2012, 2013. And to me, it's in the same kind of vein as Reality, but just a little bit different. And I do love every song on here, and I never skip any of them because I just love how this album flows. I love where it takes us on the musical journey. And I have a particularly good memory associated with the song You Will Set the World on Fire. I listened to that as I was going to a job interview because it was kind of to pump me up and, get me excited. And I had a really good job interview. I got the job and, so that was special to me in that reason too. Bowie was in such a wonderful place musically at this time. And he was surrounded by such talented musicians and he was able to work so well with them and get just what he wanted out of them. And I know that's not a unique situation for him. Most of his career, he was able to do that. But I think it's notable this late into his career that he was producing such consistently high quality tunes. Even the tracks that don't make it onto the album proper are amazing. And that might be a little foreshadowing.
I remember there was a song called Atomica.
Oh, yeah.
That was from those sessions. Didn't make it onto the album. And that's a great high energy.
That is a great
song.
one.
I like that one.
Yeah. So my number 2 is The Next Day.
All the singles on this album are fantastic. There's a song on there called Love Is Lost. That is one of my favorite of all his songs. This is a great record. And it was amazing that they kept it a secret. It seriously was a secret. And I remember, maybe you guys remember this too, like the night before it was announced or a day before it was announced, his son, Duncan Jones, on Twitter said, "I know something you guys don't know." And people were like, what are you talking about? And then we found out, oh my God, there's a new Bowie album.
I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of history with this one or Black Star, just because they're the newer ones, so they're not as embedded in my bones like the other ones are. I like them both. I especially think Black Star is a major artistic statement. You know, that's him being arty again, which I really appreciated. I think The Next Day is a little too long for me by a song or two, and lacks, I don't know, like firework. I like it and it's strong, but it's like a 7 out of 10 for me because it doesn't have enough strong songs that provoke me to go back to it over and over again. And it doesn't have like enough peaks. It's just sort of, oh, that's good, like the whole way through. But I need to live more with it. I haven't taken enough time.
I do hear really strong songs on it, but I hear really strong songs on the first half. Like to me, it's really front loaded. And I think it starts really high. And then as it nears the end, it does kind of drift off for me. But I do really like the record.
For me, the best part about it is he obviously only recorded it because he wanted to. He had been away for how long, and this album comes just because he feels like it. And I think that shows. The other thing I like to mention Medazaland again is the way he messes with his past with the cover, putting just the block, and the way the back of Medazaland defaces the Rio picture. I always like when artists do that and they go, can you quit thinking about my past and let's look at now? You know, he's blatantly going, anyway, here's me now.
Yeah.
And it's up there for me too.
All you need is now.
It's a motto I live by.
This is probably not a coincidence. 3 or 4 of these tracks from this album appeared in Lazarus.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure he was working on both projects simultaneously.
Yeah, that's right. Like Valentine's Day. And
as great as Black Star is, it's just not an album I'm going to go back to and listen to a lot. It's just too heavy. Whereas The Next Day is, I think, the perfect modern Bowie for me. Whereas Black Star is a great artistic achievement, but it is not an easy listen.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, I have a confession to make. I did not listen to it in full until 2 weekends ago when it was the 5th anniversary of his death.
Really?
I couldn't listen to it because we got it and then I hadn't listened to it for the first time yet. And then a couple of days later he passed away and I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I've certainly heard most of the songs on it throughout the years, but I just couldn't bring myself to listen to it the whole way through. There's too much. But we heard it. Brian was playing it the other weekend and finally I heard the whole thing. I'm like, okay, yeah, but I totally agree with you, David. This album is a much more accessible album. It's a much lighter album. I mean, it's still heavy rock guitars and stuff, but the content, the treatment of it is just a little more something you can put on over and over again, at least to me.
And not get sad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Black Star is already challenging musically. And then to also add the weight of, you know, what it means now and what the lyrics are about.
Plus, I feel dumb because I listened to Black Star before he died. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, it's so obvious what it was about.
I know.
But I did not get it at all.
Yeah, same with me. I mean, I remember the day it was out, being online, looking at message boards like, hey, I'm hearing talk he may tour for this album. He's been retired, but I think he may tour. I heard so-and-so say this. And then 2 days later, we find out, definitely not.
Yeah, somebody woke me up and told me David Bowie died. And I said, what do you mean? He just released an album. I was like, he can't, you know?
Right, yeah.
David.
Let me tell you, this one struggled with not being number one. Is Never Let Me Down.
Oh, wow.
I've kind of said everything I could say about it a little bit here, but especially in the episode of my podcast. But I don't know. It's just I can't figure out why it's so frowned upon. My perfect version of it is I combine some of the songs from the original and some of the songs from the 2018 one. Mm-hmm. I also like the original track order that was intended, like before the album was finished. I play it in that order too, which starts with Beat of Your Drum and ends with Zeros.
I remember you talking about that on the episode a little bit.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I mean, on Wikipedia, you can see the original list.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to find out about that track listing and hear more detail, check out, I think it's episode 20 of the D-side. It's 20 or 21. A great episode about Bowie in the 80s. And I think the show notes say, be careful what you wish for.
Yep. He got what he wanted.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I'm not I literally thought, oh my God, I'm going to get just killed for putting this so high up, but at least it was on some other lists. So.
Nope, it's not on my list, but I definitely don't disagree.
No judgment here. You know, we all come to this with our own experiences, our own opinions, and who are we to say you're wrong?
You're wrong. And the title track was a bubbling under for my top 5 too. I absolutely love the title track for this.
So
good. Really?
Such a sweet song.
It is. It's like real smooth.
Well, I should preface all of this. I know we all love the 80s, but to me, the peak period of David Bowie is really the mid to late 70s. That's him, I think, at his most creative and his finest. I have issues with both the Low and the Heroes albums because I don't like those instrumentals. I think the songs with lyrics are among the most interesting and fascinating and creative things he's ever done. And then the second sides of both those albums kind of drag them down. I never put on those instrumental songs for any reason. They're just total background. And I think it was just him indulging in his newfound love of Brian Eno and just too heavily influenced. There's no David Bowie there. And so, yes, Low and Heroes are fantastic albums, especially Low, but I couldn't include either of them because those side twos torpedo them down so badly for me. Having said that, Station to Station, which is my number 2, is like the best parts of those 2 albums without all the filler instrumentals. He has no recollection of making this album because he was so out of his mind on cocaine. And I don't care because I think it is a masterpiece. I love the intersection of avant-garde rock music that he's finding with the funk, with some disco element, the plastic soul that you mentioned earlier. And I think the real all-star of these albums are what is called the Dam, which is Dennis Davis on drums, Carlos Alomar on rhythm guitar, and George Murray on bass. They call themselves the Dam because that's their initials. And those guys, that rhythm section is so funky and so good, yet it's like an R&B rhythm section put to strange avant-garde rock music. And I just love it. I think Station to Station is one of his best, most complete pieces of music at his most creative.
Wasn't the E Street Band's keyboardist in on those sessions too?
Roy Bittan? Is he in there too?
I think he was.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
He seems to have a role in a lot of really important, influential albums outside of even just Bruce.
Yeah.
So would you like Low and Heroes better if it went vocal, instrumental, went back and forth instead of backloading the second side?
Maybe. That's a good question. I've always wished that side one of both those albums made up one album and put all the instrumental stuff on some other album and let that be like a special bonus or something like that, because I would never play it. And it weighs down how often I play Low and Heroes, which I love. Yeah, I'm not too keen on those instrumentals. They kind of ruin things for me.
I always claim that Low is one of my favorites, and I do like a lot of those instrumental tracks. However, you just made me think of something. For many, many years, I wanted to get that compilation called All Saints that was just the instrumental tracks. It really bugged me that I didn't have it. I did get it about 2 years ago, and I think I've only listened to it once. It was so important. It was so important that I get it, but I don't play it that often.
When compared to everything else on those albums, they just feel so inconsequential. It was more like, oh, look what I'm into, or look what I can do. Put it on a different album. I don't want them there. You know? They're not bad. They just weigh down. They're so in such a stark contrast with the strength of the actual songs that they just kind of weigh it down for me.
And you listened to those for the first time, what, in the 80s?
Probably, yeah. When Ryko came out with all those special edition, remasters of the old albums with the bonus tracks, that's when I got. Those are, to me, still the definitive versions of all of his albums because it's got such great bonus material on them. So, yeah, I started collecting those in, the late 80s, early 90s.
Well, and I just wonder if the people that listened to it when it came out, what they think about those sides. It has to make a difference because it's hard to go back to something like that. But at the time, literally everybody says Low and Heroes is their favorite Bowie album. But is it really?
Yeah.
Or
I know. I wonder that too. Let me put in a plug, and I've mentioned it before on my show. There's a fantastic Bowie book called Bowie in Berlin, A New Career in a New Town, that talks about his Berlin period, the 3 albums. And it's great. And it's an easy read too. If you want to know more about that period, check out that book. It's so good.
Those Ryko discs that you're talking about, I have those too. I love those. And in fact, all those early albums that were re-released, I actually picture them having a slight green tint to them because they put them in those green jewel cases.
Exactly. Same. Yes.
So Station to Station, that is a great album. I agree. Although I'm not going to be talking about it now. I'm up to my number 2 choice. And my number 2 choice, guys, one of us had to mention this album. So I guess it will be me from 1972, Ziggy Stardust. This was the second Bowie album that I ever heard because, like I said, I loved Queen. I bought the single for Heart's Filthy Lesson. I then bought Outside because I liked that song. And I liked Outside. Two things turned me off a little bit. I wasn't a fan of like aggressive 90s music, like Nine Inch Nails and things. And I heard some of that in there. And I also, even to this day, don't really like those segues that break up the songs. At this point, I love all the proper songs on that album. I think it's a fantastic album. But I said, I kind of like that one. I should try to get more into Bowie. Well, everybody talks about Ziggy Stardust being great. I'll buy that one. So that was the next one that I bought. I really, really did like it. I could understand why people dug it so much. It's one that when I listen to it, I think every song on it is pretty great. The one cover that's on there is maybe the only one that seems a little out of place and isn't up to the standard.
That's so funny because like with Hunky Dory, I mentioned how I had all my cassettes in order.
Right.
At first, also Ziggy Stardust was near the bottom, but my favorite song on it was It Ain't Easy, which is the cover.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
it is.
I still love that song.
The beginnings of this album, I think, are really interesting. It has all these different influences and stems from all these ideas. One thing that I didn't really know about until recently was there's some British rocker I never heard of named Vince Taylor. And my Bowie books mentioned that he was a big influence because he, quote, destroyed his mind with LSD and ended his career with a catastrophic performance in France where he proclaimed himself the Messiah. So I've never heard of this guy, but I want to learn about him because he sounds like a heck of a lot of fun. And another interesting thing that played a part in the development of this record was in between this record and the one before it, Hunky Dory, Bowie sort of got the idea that he wanted to become like a musical Svengali. He started working with a band called Arnold Corns that he was a part of, and they did some of the songs that end up on Ziggy Stardust. He also submitted the song Suffragette City to Mott the Hoople, and they weren't interested, so he then sent them all to Young Dudes. But he got into this thing like, I'm going to write songs for other people and produce other records. I'm going to try to make a success, musical success for somebody else. Those ideas guided him to create what he calls the plastic rock star that was Ziggy Stardust. They all sort of played a part in developing this persona. And this album, much like Hunky Dory and most of his 70s albums, is mentioned in the book 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. They say this is the only glam rock album to have stood the test of time, mainly due to the solid songwriting and carefully thought out arrangements. I was like, wow, that's a pretty big statement to say this is the only.
Very big statement.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I'm, agree with that, but I wanted to bring it up, see if I could cause a fight.
I don't think you can say anything bad about this album. I mean, it's crucial. If I remember right, in 1987, Rolling Stone put out its top 100 albums of 20 years that they had been in business. That was one of the most influential things I've ever read or had or own. I still own the magazine. It's in the garage. And number 6 was Ziggy Stardust.
Cool.
And again, going back to what I was saying earlier, I'm the only person I know in Utah that likes David Bowie and knows anything about him. And to see Rolling Stone put that album there, place it there, is such huge validation that I'm okay. Smart people are liking what I'm liking. That's a good sign.
I bet I'm the only one who's going to mention this record.
Mm-hmm.
Well, It's not my number one, so.
So I think that's crazy. This is, the record that.
Well, that's what I was talking about. I get the 70s. I fully understand and I love them and I get their importance, but I just don't usually bond with stuff as much if I didn't hear it in the time it was released.
Right, I got you.
This is one of those things that, of course, it's essential, but just with my heart, and there's a top 5, It's just, it has to be something that I heard when it was brand new for me.
Yeah, I understand that. There's such a difference coming into something from backwards from forwards. And I think that might be why, as you were trying to, I think, get Jon to say about Low and Heroes, coming into that synth music after hearing it for, your whole childhood, hearing it on Low and Heroes, like, oh, what is this nonsense? But back then it was, basically groundbreaking and so new, and everyone hearing it for the first time was probably blown away. But yeah, we've heard it all before by the 80s, and like you come back to it and you're like, wow, okay, moving on.
Yeah. Like it's a good historical document, or that's how I would have viewed it. Like after listening to Black Celebration by Depeche Mode, I can't go to Low side 2.
Yeah.
In terms of historical documents, that made me think of something that I thought was kind of cool to consider about this album. It was, this album came out in 71. So it's hard to imagine with us growing up in the 80s. It's hard for us to imagine the impact that like the performance of Starman had when Bowie just walked over to Mick Ronson and just sort of dangled his arm over his shoulder in that kind of feminine way. I was reading, how there was like a generation of people who fought in a war in the UK who raised their children to, be against that sort of thing. And now here is a major pop star on national TV doing it. It blew their minds. I do understand that a lot of this album's history and reason people love it is because of the cultural impact it made at the time. And I'm never going to be able to understand that cultural impact.
Well, it's like us with videos, like it's impossible to separate a lot of the music we love from the 80s from the videos. And he was kind of, I don't want to necessarily say the first, but he made his persona inseparable from the music with his live shows.
Definitely. So in closing, let me just tell you guys this. This was the first album that Robert Smith bought with his own money.
Wow.
Nice.
I like that.
Did he tell you that himself or what?
Yep. I had a Zoom chat with him earlier today.
Yeah. Oh,
he brought it up when he heard I was going to put it on my list. He said, it was in his Robert Smith voice. It was hard to understand, but he said, those other guys are all chicken. They're not going to mention it. So since you are, let me tell you this interesting fact. You'll be the only one who knows.
That's great.
Hello, we're back again, and probably at a terrible time for you guys.
Sarah, here's what I figured.
Tell me.
I cut it off right before we all got to our number one selections for a reason.
Okay.
We always end the year with a great Christmas giveaway that always makes me feel happy, and I'm excited to do it. This year, we're going to start the year with a giveaway as well.
Oh.
Nothing as fancy. It's no autographed CDs from pop stars that I've loved for 30 years.
Okay.
Just an Amazon gift card. I'm willing to give away a $10 Amazon gift card or an Amazon UK gift card, one of those two sites, whichever one is the one you shop at, to the person who can correctly guess what our number one choices are going to be for the Bowie albums.
Oh, wow.
So what you got to do is you got to send us an email or a Facebook message.
Or Twitter.
Or a Twitter message. Our email address is permrecordpodcast@mail.com. And your email should just say like Sarah Hunky Dory, David Hunky Dory, John Hunky Dory, Brian Hunky Dory, whatever your guesses are, what we're going to say is the number one album. So you have until Wednesday, February 3rd to email us or message us with your guesses. And if more than one person gets it right, then I'll do a drawing, like a random drawing.
Okay.
Reach out to us. Tell us what you think we're going to say our number one choices are. Make your predictions and get a chance to win some free stuff from Amazon.
Ooh.
Courtesy of your friend, Big B.
Big B?
Big B from the PRP.
Okay. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll be excited to see what people guess. And, of course, if anyone guesses it all right, wow, they'll be excited, too, because they'll win a prize.
Yeah, cool. I like giving away prizes. It's
fun. It
It
is.
Join us next time. We're going to finish up our Bowie discussion with John and David. But in the meantime, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Although there's questionable value in following us on Instagram.
Yeah. And if you forget how to do that, you can always go to our website, www.permanentrecordpodcast.com. You can get the addresses for our socials. You can also see the episode notes and pictures, lots of little tidbits that we add, YouTube links to videos and things like that.
Yeah, you always do a good job on those show notes, so it's worth checking those out.
Well, thank you.
And if you want to yell at us for our Bowie selections, or if you want to tell us, hey, great job, you guys are really, really smart, you can leave us a voicemail at 724-490-8324 or at speakpipe.com/permrecordpod. And both of those methods will allow us to hear your message and even share it on the show so folks can hear what you think.
Yeah, that's something else we like to do. We get voicemails from people, and we usually put those on the show, and we're happy to hear from you in any form. That's a fun one, too. And if you want to have some fun and add some really fun stuff to your life, you can go to our Redbubble store, search for Permanent Record Podcast, and you should find lots of cool stuff with our logo and our really cool design that a couple of our friends have made for us. So check that out too.
Yeah, thanks to the small handful of people who ordered some Christmas presents, evidently, from the shop. We had a few people order things, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, and if you've got some Christmas money still burning a hole in your pocket, there's a place you can spend it.
It all goes back into the program.
It does.
So folks, thanks for joining us for this discussion of David Bowie. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will be back in about a week's time with David and John to finish it up.
How exciting.
It is exciting.
Looking forward to it.
Cool. Talk to you guys later.
Now you are all being picked